What is up, everybody? It's your boy, the Liberal Loudmouth, and we're back again with some more action. Let me go into my shit, get my shit going here. Welcome in, welcome back. Good to see everybody. Nobody so far, but I'm about to share this shit out. Is that Bunny? Bunny's video. Bunny, you are hilarious, if you can hear me. All right, let me do a search for myself. What's up, Cobalt Blue? What's up, man? Liberal Loudmouth. Okay. Let me search for myself. Let's see if the guest button is there, and it is. All right, hopefully you guys can hear me okay. Testing my check. Okay. Mic check 1 2. Check 1 2. Okay. Sweet. Let me share it out. What's up, rah? We are live. It is my Monday, but technically it's Tuesday. Welcome in, y'all. Good morning. All right. Let me go and do something real quick. What was I going to do? Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, the guest clicker is there, so hopefully that'll work. And if you guys want to come up, you're welcome to go ahead and click on and click in. Where's my shit? Okay. I think we've got everything in order. We're ready to rock. We're ready to roll. What's up, Chip Barnes? The globalist cabal is real, y'all, and they've taken over all of our entertainment media. It's pretty nuts what we're seeing, guys. And something interesting coming out. I'm working on just a simple website that will allow you to go and see the videos a lot easier. Currently, Beastmaster. Yeah, I mean, look, us conspiratards were right the whole time. And what I find interesting is that Alex Jones has been talking about this for like my entire life, right? This globalist cabal is trying to take over everything, right? He's been literally screaming about that this whole time. And then joins them when it comes to a head. He becomes part of this globalist cabal. I would argue, and I've made this comment before, and for a while now, that he's on purpose. They make him talk about things that are real in such a crazy way that if you start bringing it up, liberals, generally speaking, be like, "Oh, you're like Alex Jones. That guy's crazy. You're just crazy." Make us, it's like gaslighting on an epic scale. Ozempic is my friend, Bob Brown says. Okay. Let's see. Books are your enemy. Beastmaster, that's funny. I've never taken Ozempic, for the record. Not that I have anything against people taking it. I just, I'm not sure. Look, I don't know about Ozempic, and I'm sure it's good for some people, but something that causes you to lose weight like that, I don't know. I question the long-term usage of such a thing, barring, some crazy like medical problem that you have. But, a lot of people have been saved by it. So, who am I to judge? Is a secret society of humans that owns, controls, and rules this country. I would argue, Stanley, that it's not just the United States, it's the world. But yeah, I mean, it's very prominent here because, we are the center of finances. We're the center of entertainment. We're the center of a lot of things, especially technology. And now we're seeing this come out. And you got to ask yourself, like, is this release of files part of this plan? Because now, like with Mamdani's mom was in there, this came up over the weekend. And while I'm not going to attribute to Zoran what his mom did, and his mom was a director of films, and, Epstein used the connections that they have in Hollywood, and by they, I mean the is country, use those connections in order to blackmail people and get them into these parties and into these situations to, develop compromise on them. And so she, she was invited to some of these parties, one of which was at apparently Ghislaine's house. And so that turned into a whole thing. There's a video of protesters at his house. I think I actually have it on this computer. Let me see if I can pull that up. I hadn't actually. Yeah, here it is. Let me play that just to kind of give you an idea of what it is we're dealing with here. Well, if it'll pull up here, let's see. What the fuck is going on? All right. So this is outside of Gracie Mansion, which is the mayoral mansion for New York City. Here we go.
That's right. We know about your mom. Now listen. We was with you, Zoran. We voted for you, Zoran. We advocated for you, Zoran. We advocated for you. You ain't getting up and get up in there and lie to us. You lied, Zoran. Shame, Zoran.
Shame! Shame!
And now I have a feeling that guy didn't support Zoran. This is all just part of the bullshit. But, because it turned out that Mira Nair was, or Nair, however you say her name, was at a Ghislaine party. But it was thrown for her movie that she made. I guess Amelia was the name of it. And Zoran would have been 18 at the time. But now they're trying to couple him in with that. And so it's is this on purpose in order to give it where you just can't trust literally anybody, and everybody's looking for something on somebody? And then, there has to be fake documents that they've inserted into this Epstein file. And I'm sure that they did, because they did a lot of duplicates in the Epstein files. They also released a lot of stuff that they had already released into They're there because Zoran Mamdani's mom had been at an after party for her premiere of her movie at Ghislaine Maxwell's house. But in attendance was Bill Clinton. Who was the other person? Jeff Bezos was there. And, but this is, she's named in several of these files, but it's always related to independent film festival shit. Right. So because they've taken over that whole media apparatus. I did a video the other day on TikTok, and I point that out. It's there's a pattern, a naming convention. If you just follow this pattern and don't feel bad for, thinking that you're anti-Semitic, because when you see that name pattern over and over again, you got to ask yourself why. And then you realize that Epstein is infiltrated, is in deep with that government over there, Ehud Barak being somebody that he was in contact with. There's now allegations that Bibi was actually one of the people that he was messaging, visiting that island. I don't know for sure that that's true, because the name is redacted, because, he redacted some names. Just like the other day, we were talking about whether or not Trump did that in order to blackmail people, to still blackmail them. Because this is something he's been doing for a while too, is blackmail. And lazy bones, yeah, I agree. They all got to go. And this morning, I'm having a conversation with the Republican, and they're still stuck on. Yeah, but look, it wasn't just Trump. And look, Trump kicked him out in 2003. It's this isn't about Donald Trump. He just happens to be the one running this. And he may have been involved in the trafficking of these children in some way. There's no hard evidence of that right now. But, where there's smoke, and there's a lot of it, there's usually fire. And so they're still trapped in this mindset of it's the Democrats versus the Republicans. And they can't get beyond this to realize there's literally a fucking global cabal of these people. This country went around the world and did this to financiers. They did it to princes. They did it, all across Europe. I'm not sure if there's any like Middle Eastern people that are in there, quote unquote Middle Eastern people. But this was all on purpose. And this is how they've been able to essentially take over the country, in my opinion. And I mean, the evidence to suggest that that's true is a lot. There's a lot of it. Now, I am also, and I see Debo and APAC. Sorry, guys, I don't know how long you guys were waiting, but let me go ahead and bring y'all in here. You guys may not be aware of it, but you can actually go into the files that were released, and you can find the videos. I don't know if any of you know how to find the videos from the Epstein files. Are you aware?
Yes, there's a website, I think.
Well, so if you come across a video and it says no pictures available, because they're all in PDF format, right? They were all released. There's some serious background noise there. I don't know who that is. Anyway, let me mute you guys real quick. I don't know who that was. They're all released as PDFs, even like the .mpeg or .mp4. So if you go to the URL bar and you delete the PDF and you put in MP4 or MOV or whatever the file extension is, because you may not know what it is because they use various file extensions, it'll show the video then. So you just have to change the file extension to, pick one, .avi, .move, .wave, take your pick. There's a bunch to choose from. His occupation said he's blowing his nose. Anyway, so I'm actually working on a tool that will do that automatically, and it'll run through all iterations of file extensions, and I'll have that available hopefully sometime tonight, maybe tomorrow. That way you can just paste the PDF URL, and it'll automatically detect what the what the file extension actually is. Anyway, that's how you find the movies from the Epstein release. So, Debo, let me go to you first since you're at the top left. What's up, man?
Oh, not a whole lot. How you doing?
I'm all right. So, what are your thoughts? What brought you up here?
I mean, I don't know. I think it's pretty consistent throughout the entirety of this whole Epstein thing. Is if expose them, lock them up, whoever it is. Don't think it should be, privy to one side or the other. But I mean, the more that it has come out, I mean, I know that the Clintons are now.
Oh, you're breaking up, Debo. We're losing you. You're breaking up, Debo.
Yeah, I'm going to be at a dead spot for a minute.
All right. Well, let me come back to you when you get to a good spot.
Dead spot for a second. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Holler at me when you get somewhere good. Let me get to APAC real quick. APAC, go ahead, man. What are your thoughts?
I'm sorry. Can you repeat that one more time? I got a business call. Same time.
Yeah. What prompted you to come up here? We'll just start
so
there.
You were talking about Zoran's mom, and I just wanted to just say that with these types of connections, like I don't fault the mom. I don't fault Zoran, of course, because he was a kid. There was a lot of people in the mix. You never know in your environment. I had a client, for example, that I was associated with that had a very, very dark, not just past, but was into some shady stuff. But I didn't know about it. So I think the issue when it comes to with Trump is whether or not you believe, that it's involved or not. The fact that he was cited so many times, you get to a point where you're like, hold on a second. What about the felonies? What about the counts? What about the all these reports against him from other people? What about and now he's being cited like thousands of times. So it gets to a point where you have to like scratch your head and think, all right, it's more likely than not that he was up to some nefarious, things. Can people prove it without a doubt? I mean, you can argue that, but it gets to a point where, it's, it's just hard to believe that he didn't do anything wrong. So,
right. Yeah, I mean that's a good point. Like, where there's a lot of smoke, maybe there's some fire, and all we're asking for, and this is the common rebuttal, is that, well, you can't prove it. Well, you're saying that he's guilty. It's like, no, we want these people investigated, but they're not going to be investigated. I think we all can agree that that's probably not going to happen at this point. And now to that point, this is the email where people, got on to Zoran about. It says, just left Ghislaine's townhouse after party for film. This is to Jeffrey from Peggy Siegel, which is like his secretary or whatever. Bill Clinton and Jeff Bezos were there. Jean Pigozzi, director Mira Nair, that's his mother. And so she had directed the movie, was at an after party where Bill Clinton was in attendance and Jeff Bezos. It makes sense to me why she would go to a party like that. And she may not have even known whose house it was, But at the same time, why is he always everywhere? Yeah, why is he always everywhere with, everybody? It still makes me, side-eye it. Ben, you've got some really bad background noise. Let me mute you. I can hardly think when you got that going on. Anyway, it makes you wonder, is that because their goal was to find compromising material on as many people involved in that industry as possible, and that, maybe there is no compromising material on her, but they were trying, right? So just being involved in that industry may lend itself to, having those kinds of people around you, because it's, I don't know. That's kind of my read of it. Benjamin, what do you think, man?
Can you still hear anything?
Yeah, I can hear you. It was just some weird fucking sound like a washing machine.
I'm on my treadmill before my doctor's appointment. I'm trying to get a little workout in. But I'll just turn it off if I come up. So, I text you this morning about stuff, and I'm not going to go into all of it, but at the end of the day, what really pisses me off is if we're all going to read what we've read, and I'm going to watch what I say here. Like, the one part of it was about him using his finger to check sizes. I don't even like saying it. It's so fucking grotesque. But if we're going to read something like that, and there's 300 million plus of us, and we're just going to sit back and be like, well, we read it, and yeah, that's horrible, but anyways, how's the stock market doing today? Are our 401ks doing well? It's all of our fault that he was able to do that, and that they were all able to do that, because we ain't doing shit about it. I told you earlier about and I'm not going to say their name, the Sixers. They at least had the balls to go up and cause a scene, whereas for a simple election, and I hope I watch what I say there. But erection. Sorry. Yes, erection. Oh, but we'll sit there and you like that? They'll do it for that, but we'll read what we're reading, and not just him. He is the main player because of his status right now, or position. But is it our fault that we're letting this go down, or should we be like, hey man, what time we going? What time we going to the party, and we're gonna handle this shit? This is absurd. No, we just sit back and accept it. Unfortunately, and it's my fault too. I'm an American too, so it's my fault as much as it is everybody else's.
Man, I hear what you're saying, and you're not wrong, but at the same time, we can't prove beyond the shadow of a doubt that these things happen. So if we were to go out and do these things, there could be innocent people that are injured by the mob, because mob mentality is just not great, right? They rile themselves up and get themselves all in a tizzy. So that's why the courts are so important. But since we can't even get them on board, and they were on board, and then let this motherfucker slide. I mean, we got to look at that whole justice system has been compromised, so we're going to have to fix that, and maybe there will be little justice for the victims in this whole thing, but knowing it, and you have to change it moving forward. And I think that's where we're at, because some of the videos, guys, that they're posting on Twitter are being removed from Twitter because they're so bad. Some of them are unredacted. We're talking disgusting videos, things that you'd go to jail for if they were on your hard drive. And this shit is like, it's overwhelming, because what do you do with that? And I think you bring up a great point. Like, at what point do people go and show a day of peace and love, American style? I don't know. I think that's a valid question, though, Ben. Now, Debo, before I get to the last person, you still have bars. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm good. I should be good now.
Okay, yeah, please, go ahead, Ben.
I mean, to me, the more that like I was saying, is the more that is exposed. Like you're seeing a lot of people that were even working with him even after 2008, and it was well established at that point who he actually was. And you still see people reaching out to him for political gain. I mean, I don't see anyone calling any of that out. So it's just kind of odd to see in real time.
It's odd to see who is reaching out for political gain.
Well, even when they were what was Trump's attorney's name? What was it?
Alan Dershowitz.
I can't remember his name. Michael Cohen. Michael Cohen.
Man, fuck that dude. I tried to warn Democrats. I tried to warn them. Don't look to him as some fucking savior. Ex-MAGA bullshit. That guy's a criminal. Even
now, he's come out and say that he was pressured by the Biden DOJ to make statements. Like the guy has flip-flopped more than anyone in the political arena. Then like it's unprecedented how much that dude has gone back and forth. He actually served time for lying to Congress, and then Democrats were up there heating him. It's just like, dude, holy fuck. The guy flip flops more than shoes. So,
and Michael Cohen. I haven't really followed the guy, because like after he did what he did, it's like, dude, you only came out against this shit after you got caught, you little fuck. And so there was no like aha moment. He's like, I've got to stop this to be a better person. No, he's a scumbag. And
we can agree on that.
Yeah, he's
glad we can find something to agree on.
I mean, without a doubt, I wouldn't be surprised if he was on the fucking island too. That little shit weasel.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt that either.
Yeah, and it's surround yourself with criminals. You gotta wonder, But
they're all criminals, every one of them.
And like Ben said, Debo, at what point does society just like freak out on these people? When does that happen? When is it righteous enough to do, right?
Yeah, I don't disagree with that either. It's a lot of powerful people that are involved in this, and that's why it's going down the way it is because they will not let go of that grip of power, no matter what side you're on.
Yeah, I don't have any hope that we'll see fruit from this. I really don't, and I hate to say that, but I've watched these politicians my whole life, and I just don't. Well, I don't have any faith in them that they're going to do the right thing here. We're going to have to fucking get rid of them all and start over again.
But Tim, it's like this: let my name or your name be involved in anything, my front door would be blown apart.
That's right.
I mean, instant fucking leave.
Yep.
And here we are reading this. like it's a nighttime story, that we're just reading to our families. Like, oh yeah, so hey, today this happened, da 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 da, and we just go on about our day during the day like nothing's fucking going on. It's At what point do we freak the fuck out and handle our business?
Yeah, I mean, because these are children. They were doing this to children, and there are reports of cannibalism and shit. Again, like I said in the last show, and I've said before, when you become so wealthy that there's nothing that you can't buy or own or do, you start getting into weird shit. Like, I own everything that I could possibly own except for humans. Let's get that to work out, right? And these people are twisted, and and if that's the case, maybe there shouldn't be any billionaires that exist, because if that's what it lends itself to, is that kind of like secret society, it's mutually assured destruction, this secret that they all keep. You got to get rid of that shit. Like, it's crazy to me. Now let me move to Ferry. Ferry, go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can, and welcome aboard.
Thank you. The survivors of this they're not going to see the justice they deserve, because even if you look across the board, across the country, most survivors, and I'm one of them, they don't get their justice because it's a he said, she said at a certain point, or like for me, my stepdad moved us a lot. And they wanted me to know what happened to me, where, what house, what address. I was a little girl. I don't know. So, yeah, these monsters get away with this because they know how to get away with it.
Yeah.
And it's just disgusting. Some of the stuff I actually had to stop reading because I got super triggered. But this is disgusting. We need to make sure that there are no more billionaires.
Yeah, I mean, does anybody disagree that it's probably the money that brings them to that point where...
I think so.
Because it's just, they're so powerful that, they know, and they have all these connections and shit, and it allows them to do things.
Isn't there a claim that there were FBI agents involved in helping?
That I don't know, but I imagine so, because look at the cushy deal that the motherfucker got back in, 2009 or whenever it was that he was convicted. They gave this guy the red carpet treatment. They let him, stay in prison and then go to his house every day to work. Who the fuck, what American that goes to jail has ever gotten any kind of shit like that, especially for something as egregious as, graping kids?
Right. Well, look at Diddy. Diddy's a prime example of even current times. Look, he got nothing.
It's also gross. And, I guess as a society, we've got to ask ourselves, when do you freak out? Do you freak out? What do you do moving forward? Because this dog just ain't going to hunt, as they say. We cannot allow this to happen anymore. It just can't. And what that looks like going forward, I don't know. But at this point, none of those fuckers can be trusted. All of them, the whole lot of them. That sucks, but what do you do? Scissor, welcome in, Scissor. What's up?
Hey, man, how's it going?
Pretty good.
I wanted to come up because you asked earlier, the question of what point do people, rise up and, start opposing this at levels that are more consummate with other periods in our history, such as, 1776 and the Civil War. And to me, I think the objective answer to that has got to be the elections, to me, are the red line. That if elections are significantly messed with by this administration, then we've lost the only legitimate pathway we have to affect change in our country. And at that point, I think other means of affecting change then become more legitimate.
I'm actually glad you brought that up, because I want to share this article that I saw this morning. And this should freak people out and kind of give them context as to why Trump has done a lot of what he's done. Trump urges Republicans to take over and nationalize voting. Quote, we have states that are so crooked and they're counting votes, he said. Let me get down here. The Republicans should say, we want to take over, Trump said. We should take over the voting in at least 15 places. The Republicans ought to nationalize the voting. We have states that are so crooked and they're counting votes. Now, we all know that that's not constitutional. The Constitution grants the rights over those voting, to the states. And so he's out there like saying it. And then you bring into picture the Fulton County issue where they went in and took the voting records, and they've offered to remove ICE from Minnesota if they give up their voter registration. So you can't do anything if they take over. You're absolutely right, Scissor. And we're watching them try it right now.
Together we had 12 months of unprecedented success.
Hold on.
2025, and now
autoplay is playing. God,
records with the epic midterm.
That voice. That was that article had a video up of Trump, and he started yapping. His yapper. He's a yapper. Anyway, I mean, it's this should concern everybody, Republicans too.
Don't you think we should all vote and operate under the same rules and regulations of every state? Like, I don't think that the federal government should dictate that. I'm just saying we should unilaterally all vote the same way if we're all a united state, right?
Yeah, Tim, can I say one thing real quick?
Sure, but in response to that, Debo, you'd have to change the Constitution. Like, I understand what you're saying. But that will require an amendment to the Constitution. But go ahead,
I agree.
Benjamin.
I'm just saying, don't you think we should?
Jules down, whenever I said we need to handle our business, she said, in quotations, what does handle our business mean? And then when Scissor said something, she said, well, what does that mean? Like, are you wanting an admission of the planet? I mean, like, what do you think what does handle our business mean? What are we talking about? You know exactly what it means. At some point, when you freak the fuck out, you got to handle your business as Americans and say enough is enough. That's what that means. You take it for what it is. I got to watch what I say, but have fun with it. I mean, you should know what that means. Come on now.
If I may also suggest too, and unfortunately this is something that maybe kind of rises beyond the level of what we can immediately do as voters, I think it's also going to take a component of certain governors, growing a sack and, taking steps to defund the federal government.
No, you don't want that.
It's maybe what it has to take. I mean, they could do a whole lot less damage if states like New York and California we're not filling the coffers for them.
Those are don't like the. Dude, you guys are fucking wild. It just when Biden's in power, or Democrats are on the other side, it's this, that, and the other. It's like that. I think you should have like the same level of whatever during, no matter who's in power. That's how consistency. That's how you hold a union together. And when this partisan bullshit and both sides do it, and I hate to even say that, but it's true.
Okay, so can you give examples?
Yeah, sure. When the Biden administration is deporting 1.8 million people from the interior of the United States, there's no one in the streets protesting ICE. There's no one in the streets saying fuck you to federal agents and impeding their ability to arrest criminals. Like, that shit didn't happen to the level that it's happening right now. It just didn't. That's what I'm talking about.
To that, I would say, though, Debo, is that the people aren't upset about the fact that ICE is doing its job at any point, right? Because it does serve a purpose. And I think most Democrats will agree. There is border security that's necessary. But it's the way in which Trump is doing it that is causing people, rightly or wrongly, to get upset about it. And I think you can appreciate that. Like, if somebody tells you something and they have two different ways of saying it to you, they can say it in a nice, pragmatic way, or they can be a dick. And you're going to take both of those. Even if it's the same message, you'll be upset at one and not the other.
Well,
does that make sense?
What I was upset about was when we were saying that there's 300,000 missing children, and then we were gaslit and said it wasn't happening. and then this administration comes in and removes those people. I mean, there's been 2,500 children that have been found by this administration that were during these operations, according to DHS, that is their figure, not mine. So to pretend like we weren't having this massive issue and we were being gaslit saying it wasn't happening, and then when they go in to rectify it, there's people in the streets. Like, it just doesn't make sense. Somebody's got some god-awful background noise. Luna, that's you.
Okay, well, let's get to Luna because she hasn't spoken yet. Luna, go ahead. Finish your construction project, maybe. Or not. She's sawing
like
logs.
Dishes. I think it's dishes. Sounds like dishes.
Luna, are you there? I think Luna may have accidentally requested up. All right, we can move along.
Can I say something to the immigration thing real quick?
Please.
Okay, here's the deal. All people, this is how I interpret the law, because that's what it is, that all people who are on this land are privy to their Fourth Amendment. The reason we weren't angry about deportations under Biden or under Obama or under Bush or under whoever it was is that people got due process and American citizens weren't having their doors kicked in. That's why people are angry, because they're violating constitutional rights. And whether you're a citizen or not, here, you still are privy to the Fourth Amendment. That's why people are angry. Not only that, but ICE used to be in ties, suit and ties. Why are they dressed up like fucking G.I. Joe?
That's always been their attire. Their wardrobes have not changed one iota.
They are more armed than the military. My husband served, and they carry more on them than my husband did.
Yeah, Debo, the only time that ICE would ever like put on all that gear that they have is if they're doing like a dangerous raid. Otherwise, they would walk around with, like a polo shirt and blue jeans.
Yeah, but let's keep in mind, though, you're asking them to show up to a protest where you got the people throwing rocks, bricks, stones. So, like, go to work and take a chance of getting beat the shit out of, or go to work prepared. They're going to go to work prepared. I agree they used to dress in khakis and collared shirts. Maybe a lot of those photos were just picked out for convenience. I'm sure some were geared up. But, yes, would y'all go to a protest, seeing what y'all see, and take a chance of not going home to your wife or your family? I wouldn't. I mean, yeah, maybe it is overkill, but is it?
Well, here's the thing. They aren't supposed to be going to protest to do anything because that's not in their purview, right? There are agents that can be responsible for a protest. That is not what they do.
No, you're right.
They shouldn't be going into protest to do anything.
I guess I should have. No, you're right on that. It's my fault. I guess I should say, like, when they're going out to do their jobs, and from what I can see, like, I wouldn't want to go to work and be like, man, I hope shit goes right today. No, I'm going to go to work suited up for what they're facing now, and that's from both sides. Both sides are agitating. So if they weren't getting that, then I could completely understand going to work in khakis and collared shirt. But what they're going into every day, absolutely not. I wouldn't go in khakis and collared shirt.
Well, why is it only in one state? That's my question. Why is it only in Minneapolis?
Well, you'd have to ask Donald Trump that. I think.
Well, no, that's not true. If you look at Florida and Texas, they have. I mean, Florida's. I mean, how many have they gotten? I think it's like 23,000, and Minnesota's got 1,500 criminals out. Like, well, if they're being so aggressive, why aren't people revolting all over the country? Why is it only Minnesota?
What that tells me is that they're going into areas where people don't care about their constitutional rights. And so they don't
telling me
stand up for them.
Texas doesn't care? You're telling me Texans don't care?
Clearly not.
Oh, come on!
And
That's
here,
ridiculous.
let me play this video.
That's ridiculous.
This is
ridiculous.
well. Hold on. This is what ICE looked like and how they operated under Barack Obama.
And was granted exclusive access to
Just
witness
watch.
some of those raids.
And this is in a sanctuary city.
We got 3 targets this morning. You know, some of the neighborhoods a little sketchy, so we got to make sure it's not just the target we're looking at, but other people around us.
They want to come out extra early, like right now, because they want to catch these people before they go to work. That's why it starts so early in the morning.
All right, let's roll, guys. Something like this.
Unmarked vehicle.
All right, that vehicle behind us is off limits.
How many people are involved with this operation, particularly right now?
I have a 5-man arrest team here situated in this neighborhood, here on the street. You see the stoop going up. I have a couple guys sitting right inside that stoop. This is part of what we do. Keep eyes on somebody and try to be as covert as we can.
And that is the way ICE is supposed to operate, where they have targets and they go after
I love
targets.
that you ended it right there, because like another minute of that is actually quite ironic.
Why? Because they get the brother, and the brother then leads them to
they
his
get the
brother.
wrong guy. Yeah, they got the wrong guy. Right, yeah.
Yep.
Uh-huh.
Yep. And then they released him,
weird. Yeah.
didn't they?
Yep.
That's not weird. That happens all the
it's
time.
weird.
It happens with
I know.
local police too,
I know.
Debo.
Isn't that ironic?
Debo, no,
Happens
it's not ironic.
all the time. That happens all the time. You
For
said
example, if somebody is walking down the road and the police all of a sudden go to this person and detain them because they match the look of a suspect that was called in.
Right.
This happens. Right?
Yeah,
and they
does.
have a right to do that.
Yeah.
But they don't have a right to break into your place of business without a warrant. They don't have a right to enter your home without a warrant. They don't have a right to detain
And they're
U.S.
not doing
citizens. If somebody says I'm a U.S. citizen, they have no right without probable cause.
Yes, they do.
No, they don't.
Yes, they do.
No, they do not, sir.
ICE can hold you for 48 hours without charges.
They do not have a right to deal with U.S. citizens.
Look it up.
Do not. I don't need to look it up because I've already
under the
looked it
Patriot
up.
Act. Under the Patriot Act, they absolutely
the Constitution.
do.
Listen, you're saying the federal law supersedes the Constitution, Debo? And then you asked me why
That is federal
it's
law,
only
dude.
happening in certain states that they're standing up when you right here are licking boots on this panel,
Not licking anything.
wondering why in the states where they care about their constitutional rights, they're standing up to it, but in Texas they're not because y'all are a bunch of bootlickers. Go to the red states, bootlickers.
By me
Yeah,
pointing
that's
out
right.
the hypocrisy of what you're saying in
How
a
is
red
it
or a blue
hypocritical?
state does. Because you literally cut the video of them arresting and detaining the wrong person.
Well, okay. First of all, you're making an implication that isn't true because I can't play a lot of that clip because TikTok will ding you for copyright, as well as YouTube, which is a simulcast too. So me cutting it off there has nothing to do with what was to follow. They did arrest the wrong person, but see, they had probable cause in this operation that they were doing. But if they didn't have any probable cause and they weren't already targeting somebody, they would have no right to walk up to a random person because they look a certain way and demand that they show their paperwork. They don't have that right, Depot. You don't see the difference between one is a targeted operation where they happen to get the wrong guy, and the other one is you were standing there and you had dark skin and an accent, and therefore I'm going to sit here and molest you. You see the difference, Debo?
Well, I didn't ever say that was okay. Just get that out of the way. But the point
That's
that
what
I'm
people are fighting
making,
against.
The point that I'm making by saying that ICE, under the Patriot Act, has the right, not agreeing with that right, just saying that it exists, they can detain you and arrest you for 48 hours without charges. Any person.
The ICE has
hold
right
on, just
to
a minute.
No, hold on.
What
you've
I'm
been
saying,
talking.
what I
hold
literally.
on. Hold on.
By me
hold on.
highlighting what the law is doesn't mean that I necessarily agree with it.
You
I'm
don't
just
know
saying,
what the law is, so that's the thing. The Constitution.
Don't tell me what I know and don't know.
Well, it's from your words. I'm going by your words. So talk with more knowledge, then I'll believe.
Under the Patriot Act, they have the right to
The Patriot Act violates the Constitution.
Then change the law.
No,
It's
the Constitution is the Constitution. You're like, change the
Look
law.
at this, mister, don't tread on me, but let me lick your ass. Like,
Yeah, sure. That's
seriously.
what that means. By me saying that that's how they operate is not me saying that I agree with it. That's all I'm trying to say.
Okay, well, I have brown people in my family who
I don't
have
care.
Hispanic last names,
That's
and they've
not the
had to
point.
be pulled out of school so that ICE don't detain our children. So
yeah, that's not happening.
It is happening. They pulled a preschool teacher out in handcuffs and shackles in front of her students. Why don't you go do some research here? They pulled a 17-year-old out of his high school and beat the crap out of him. Pay attention.
Okay.
Yeah, and Debo, ICE does not have a right to grab U.S. citizens and hold them for 48 hours. Whoever told you that lied to you.
Okay.
Just a fact, man.
Just because you say it doesn't make it true. Okay.
They can hold an illegal alien for 48 hours before they give them over to somebody else, but they can't do it to U.S. citizens, dude.
Okay.
I don't know what to say. I mean,
I'm
you
not
believe
gonna
what you
argue.
want, I guess.
It's just reality. You guys don't live in it, but that's fine.
Okay. I mean, if that's what you think, hey, walk up to, next time an officer, you're walking down the street, you better have your papers in order, Debo. Or you'll be like, well, I'm going to sit in here.
I just looked it up. You cannot do. Hey, I just looked it up to squash the whole argument. You cannot hold a U.S. citizen for 48 hours under the Constitution. It's it. It's simple. Okay. I looked it up.
Not even under the Patriot Act.
Okay.
No, I looked for the Patriot Act specifically.
Okay.
Right. But again, okay. So we got Chip. Welcome in, Chip. What's up, man?
Hey, man, a good conversation. I think this represents a lot of what the thematic undertone is. I think a lot of people would agree with this, is that it's not so much that the immigration laws are being enforced. We understand that if the president got elected and the majority of the population elected that, and that's the policy, whatever it is, we don't have to like it, but we understand it. However, the manner in which they're going about enforcing it makes a big difference. I think Tim's video was indicative of that issue. There wasn't a huge militarized presence. There wasn't this attitude of us versus the citizenry, which I think is the general sense that people have. And therefore, the tactics that they're employing are over the top. And examples of this, for example, it is legal. I know it's not something they like, and you may say you're an idiot for doing it, but it is legal at a reasonable distance to follow any officer, federal, local, doesn't matter, and observe their activity on video camera or just visibly from a public area. That's not obstruction. However, in instance after instance after instance, they've stopped vehicles, threatened to break their window, demanded their ID, threatened to take them to jail, blah, 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 blah. That's overreach. They're using excessive force in many cases. And the incident where that guy lost his life, the ICE agent came over and physically assaulted a woman, not once but twice, seemingly for no reason other than he was frustrated by their presence. Frustration is not a crime. Causing someone frustration or antagonizing them is not a crime. Now, there's a reasonable level at which noise and your presence can constitute obstruction or impeding. And fair enough, if somebody crosses that line and a judge determines they broke the law, then they should be held accountable for that. But in most cases, that's not the case. You're dealing with different points of view, and the protesters are very clearly stating their point, which they have a right to do, by the way. The agents don't like it. They've been given a lot of room by their superiors, I'm putting it nicely, to do whatever they want, wherever they want, to whomever they want, however they want. And thankfully, that's changing a little bit. At least the deployment of body cameras might hold a little accountability if we can get the footage. But that's what people have an issue with. And that goes for any policing entity, not just the federal government. When police overstep their authority and they use excessive force when not necessary, people are going to push back against that, as they should.
That's right. Well said, Chip. Anybody got a response or rebuttal to that? Nothing? Debo? APAC?
No, I think you're right, but I also think that it's indicative to know that. So there's a reason why they're saying that now. I guess there's a push to have body cams on ICE, right? My understanding is Christine Ohm, said that that's going to be a thing going forward. Please validate that statement, but I'm pretty sure that's what I heard. But I think that stems or that comes from the fact that they identified that there's a problem, right? So, I mean, I think that should have been a thing from the start, body cams. Because
absolutely.
Then we can validate, right? So it defends the officer, but also the officer has nothing to fear if they're, following protocol and they're doing the right thing. And I think that would dispel a lot of tension. But also that that Republican district that swung in Texas that went overwhelmingly for Trump and then went double digits for the Democrat. I think that's indicative of the fact that, and look, I'm conservative, but I think that's indicative of the fact that there's a trust deficit in this administration. And that's the one thing that people don't like above like left versus right politics is feeling like they're being, lied to, but feeling like they can't trust the government. So I think that's the one thing that kind of transcends the left and right divide. So
yeah, and look, it's mostly even unfortunate because ICE has a role in our society. It does. I mean, people may not like it, but it does. And they can't do their job now because the moment that somebody sees ICE, given the lack of trust, as you rightly pointed out, APAC, because of that lack of trust, they're automatically going to think they're there to do something wrong. And that's not the way that it should operate. But because of the way that Donald Trump has put this forward, we're there now. Now, Debo, you've got something on your screen. I see. What's that?
So it is ICE agents can arrest non-citizens without a judicial warrant and have reason to believe that the person is unlawfully in the United States.
Uh-huh.
So just showing you that they absolutely can. Yes, that's what I said.
Yes. Well, that's not what you said earlier. That's not what you
said
earlier.
That's the whole point of ICE. That is the whole point of ICE is to detain non-citizens. That is their entirety of their fucking job.
That's all they can do. But that's not what you said earlier, Debo. Come on.
Okay.
That's not what you said earlier, man. You said because of the Patriot Act,
so
you said they could detain whoever they wanted for 48
Now let me
hours.
show you. Now let me show you what it said about American citizenship.
Bro, okay. That's ridiculous. He said what he said.
I guess my question for Debo is, I think people understand that ICE, serves a role, but don't you see that there's problems with ICE as it stands? I mean, and I think a lot of it stems from the fact that this administration got rid of the sensitive zone policy, where now ICE can enter, hospitals, they can, churches, they could be at churches, they could be at schools. And I think that, it speaks to human dignity. I personally get the point. I get what ICE is doing. I get it. People are undocumented. They're making the case that they're taking like housing away or they're taking opportunities away. You can argue that point. But I guess my question again for you, Diva, like, do you identify or agree that there is a problem, at least, or?
Yeah, I think that there are people that are absolutely getting in the way of law enforcement of doing their job, and that is a problem. And the more that people impede that, the more it's going to escalate. Period.
But with ICE, though.
I wish I could find my boot.
Here's what it says. I know. Here's what it says about American citizens. They can detain you for 48 hours. I was emulating what their job is initially. That is why I brought that one up. And now this is about U.S. citizens.
They can't detain you.
You don't want to expand that so we can all read it to the class?
You talking about an ICE detainer? An ICE detainer is a request to local jails to hold an individual for up to 48 hours beyond their normal release time so ICE can take them into... That isn't the same thing, Debo. You don't even know what the fuck it is you're reading.
Yes,
These are people already in jail, Debo. Those are people already in jail.
I know that.
And they're not going to detain non-U.S. or U.S. citizens. They're not going to detain U.S. citizens for ICE because ICE can't take U.S. citizens. What are you even talking about?
If any law enforcement agency witnesses you do a crime, they absolutely can arrest you.
That's not what we're talking about. That's not what you said. Stop. That's not what you said, you gaslighter. You are over here creating straw mans as if you made a statement that you didn't make. What are you talking about? I'm steamrolling you because you made a statement that you then found later to be false, and instead of admitting that you were wrong in the statement, maybe you misspoke. I don't care. You said what you said. Instead of just admitting, it's just non-U.S. citizens. No. You want to change the argument. That is what is going on here, Debo, and it's ridiculous.
Or you could admit you learned something from someone that doesn't see eye to eye to you.
Like, bro, like, come on, man. I know you are a thinking person, but this is like that's not genuine conversations there, Debo. It's ridiculous.
I got a question. Hi, y'all. I got a question for Debo and anybody that is arguing that what is happening is okay and acceptable. Hear me out. Go along with me for a second, y'all. Say everybody complies. Say we get rid of all the non-U.S. citizens. Say they're gone. They're out of here. What does the country look like then? What happens then? What if all the black and brown people are shipped back to where they came from, right? What if all the non-U.S. citizens are shipped back to where they came from? What does the U.S. look like then? I need somebody that is arguing that what they're doing is okay to explain that to me, because y'all are arguing and I don't understand your point. So if you think that what ICE is doing is okay, help me understand what that looks like once they execute their mission. Thank you.
So you mean like if there are only white people and indigenous left?
Yeah, I guess that's what it would be, right, Tim?
Yeah. I mean, they would find another thing to like, you've got a southern accent. You've got to go. You're not smart enough to be around us. I mean, they'd find some other reason. You know.
I wanted Debo's opinion on that. And
you're a Presbyterian.
While federal law generally limits the holding of Americans without charges to 48 hours, there are incidences of people being detained for days or weeks. So yes, there it goes. Detained for days due to investigative errors. So yes, it does happen. But it says right there, while federal law generally limits holding Americans without charges.
Can you cite that source, please?
Look, hey, murder is illegal, but sometimes it happens, okay? And that's the only point I was making. Sometimes it happens, and therefore it's okay to murder.
Nobody said that. You're using
it's the same
that is
thing.
Ridiculous.
You're like, even though they're not supposed to,
it's not even in the same fucking room, dude. Come on.
Even though they're not supposed to
it's not even equivalent in any way, shape, or form.
Debo says,
all right.
See?
Yes.
See?
No.
See?
You're...
Debo.
All right.
Did you hear my question?
Cool, dude.
Debo,
that's what question? I said. I didn't. Sorry.
Okay, so my question is that if things go the way that you think that they should go, nice and smooth, and all the undocumented, all the non-U.S. citizens are removed from this country, what does America look like then?
All of the non-citizens? Well, I don't know that you're ever going to get like every single one, right? And I think that you should be able to stay here, that if you came here legally and you haven't broken the law and you're on an expired visa, that we should expedite that process to make it more feasible for people to remain here if they're doing their due diligence or whatever. I don't think that it should just be an all out get out kind of thing. I don't agree with that. So I don't know if that answers your
yourself right
question
now,
or
because-
what's that?
And you sound like you're contradicting yourself right now, because the people that are here have came here either through the citizen process via their own country, and then they got their visa and they were in the process of going to court and following the law that was set forth to them by a judge, or B, they were seeking asylum by stepping on U.S. soil, U.S. waters, or U.S. shipping or boating vessels and asked to seek asylum. Now, for the fact that, the immigration process and the citizenship process takes a long time because of the lack of judges and attorneys, these people are overstaying, but they're allowed to overstay via the government, with the fact that the judge told them as long as they follow these rules, they can be here. So for them to cancel the app that they used to get here and then say that these people are now illegal goes against everything you just said. And that's the part that cracks me up, is because y'all get up here and y'all
How
say
am I
that
contradicting myself? I'm just confused.
because you get up here and said these people should do
Yeah, I'm
things
not
the right
sure.
way, and they were doing things the right way until this government cut their access
I didn't
to
say
the
that.
MP1 visa. Yes, you did.
Right.
You said
Well,
as long as
and,
you're following the
let
law
me
and
pull
doing it
this
right.
up. Let me pull this article up, because we know that he's going to go into Ohio, where they're eating the cats and the dogs. And before they do that, this is what they announced they were going to do. They were going to remove the protections for those Haitian migrants that were brought over under TPS and continue to allow stay. We're talking 10 plus years some of these people have been there. And Donald Trump, prior to going into Springfield and sending ICE, which is going to cause a whole hell of a lot of problems, he wanted to remove those protections, revoke their visas and their right to be here, and then say they are illegally. So this goes to what Lonnie's saying. They're here illegally, they're going through the process, and then all of a sudden this administration's like, nope, we're done with you, and then sends the Gestapo in to treat them like shit. Thankfully, in this case, a judge blocked the lifting of that status, but that's what they're doing. And then you'll turn around and you'll say, yeah, but they were here illegally. And that's crazy. Do you agree?
I would agree that having administration change their immigration policy, administration to administration, is not fair to the people that they do allow to come in here. I think if the Biden administration gave them work visas and TPS status, and even if it was amnesty, I think that it is wrong for the next administration to come in and alter that. I don't think that that's right in any way, shape, or form. If one administration is saying you can be here, then they should allow to stay. We should not be like, these are people's lives. I completely agree with you there.
Okay, fair enough. I appreciate that. And I agree fully. Like, that's, especially you've been here for 10 years. It's like, well, you can come 100%. Here temporarily, but you make your life for 10 years. We're going to eventually undo all that and then force you to leave.
Yeah, I don't think we should be doing that. I agree with you. I don't think we should be doing that. I would stand with anyone on that for sure.
And like I said, instead of advocating for more judges and more lawyers to process these people on a faster rate, so we can determine whether or not they should stay or they should go, right? Because it needs to be determined, right? That instead of doing that, you are advocating for the fact that ICE is doing his bidding by him revoking their statuses and then going to pick them up. And that's why I said you contradicted yourself. That's why, because you said as long as you do it the right way, you don't mind, but they are doing the right way and they're still getting picked up. Just like Liam, the little boy that just got released out of detention. His father came here the right way and they still picked them up. And that's the part that boggles me, because y'all don't have a solution. Y'all don't know what's going to, the U.S. is going to look like if this plan is actually executed the way y'all think it's supposed to be executed. And with that, I land.
Yeah, thank you, Lonnie. Now, real quick, guys, just a heads up. I'm bringing in the timer because we got people that have been waiting for a minute to talk, and I'd like to get to everybody. I think Lauren, let me get to Lauren and then Farah, and then I'll get back around the room to everybody that wants to speak. Lauren, please go ahead.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
I've been in the past couple days, and I've come up on a couple other the echo chambers of the right, essentially, and basically what I've gathered from what their mindset with all this is that the ICE is coming in and taking out all the bad guys, like in their minds, all the bad guys. And why didn't we all fight for this when Obama had done it, and when why weren't we all out on the streets fighting then? And my retort to that essentially was, to that I say, obviously the way that the President Trump is doing it now is striking fear into a lot of people, a lot of the American people, so that's, and it's not just the bad guys. Keeping that all in mind, there's a divide between the right and left. Yes, and done.
Well, and let me point out, though, that they also were shitting on Obama. House Democrats rip Obama on deportations. People did go out in the streets and protest. Some of the images that came out, because I remember this at the time, I was pissed, too. You see them fucking cages set up and shit. Yeah, it was a problem then, too. Now, not as many came out, and it wasn't as, crazy as it is now, but he also wasn't doing it in the same way. But yeah, I mean, it's been relatively consistent on immigration for people on the left, in my opinion. But again, still, what we're watching is just it's fucking crazy. But thank you, Lauren. I appreciate you bringing that up. Farah, I think I'm saying that right. Welcome back. It's good to see you again. Go ahead.
Yeah. Hey, how are you?
Doing fine. Take it away.
I kind of want to pivot the conversation just a little bit. I don't even think we should be talking about ICE as a legitimate organization in the first place, because it was founded under George H.W. Bush, right, in a response to the 9/11 attacks. And we know now that those things were all done by a group that was partially funded by the CIA. And the warnings we had about those attacks were entirely ignored by the Bush administration. And ICE was formed as a response to that. And it's why are we even treating this as a conversation of what ICE should be doing? ICE should not exist. It's ridiculous. It was founded on racist premises in the first place, and all it does is exactly what it was always going to do, which is target people based on race and kick them out of the country or worse. I don't know what we're talking about here.
Yeah,
and that's my piece.
Yeah, I appreciate that. They did, however, have, I think it was INS, that did the same function. We still had agents that operated to do the same thing. But I think you make a great point. The consolidation into the Department of Homeland Security, which also didn't exist until then, was very problematic, and people were warned about it at the time. Absolutely did. And it's a problem that needs to be resolved, especially considering all the stuff we're seeing now come out. We know which country was behind all of that stuff. I think we all do. And if you don't, I don't know what to say. Who would like to follow that up with something? Chip, I see a teacup, but this is usually in his wheelhouse. I did hear. Was that Scissor? Go ahead, man.
Yeah, another thing I wanted to point out, too, was, of course, the recent effort by Biden's administration to pass the bipartisan immigration bill that got torpedoed so that Trump could campaign on that issue. Not to mention the fact that there's actually been, 15 plus years of examples of Democrats proposing various immigration reforms that always ended up getting scuttled because they always had to be paired with this Republican insistence upon draconian enforcement measures having to be paired in every piece of legislation that tried to expand legitimate pathways for naturalization and citizenship.
Yeah. You got 30 seconds left, man, if you want them.
But that's what I guess I'm kind of getting at is it seems like every time there's been a quote unquote effort by Republicans to try and reform the immigration process with Democrats, it's always been disingenuous. I mean, it's like the same thing they did with the Affordable Care Act. I mean, they negotiated it down to take away all its teeth, saying, oh, yeah, we'll vote for this. And then they turned around and didn't vote for it anyway.
Yeah. Well, we're certainly in it. I don't know. I'm to the point where I just think all these people are fucked in the White House, in the government. I'm just, I've got no faith in many of them because I just, I don't know. I seen this TikToker did a video. He's like, Democrats fumble on purpose. That was his shtick about the video, was that Republicans do it on purpose. Democrats say they don't want to do it, but then they they fumble the ball. We can never actually get it done, and then at the end of the day, it's always the same shit. I don't know if there's any truth to that, but it's at least the outcome is certainly that. So
it's very apt, actually. Democrats are trying to catch up to a game that Republicans have been getting better and better at for the last 30 years.
They've been holding all of the monopoly money this whole time, and we're playing by their rules at this point. Crazy. Now we do have a new person. Support deportations. Welcome in. Go ahead.
Thank you, host. Appreciate you having me up.
Yeah.
I think you would find that there wouldn't be nearly the resistance and problems with ICE if the local jails would honor detainers. A lot of these people end up in those jails, and ICE turns a blind eye. Now, at the state level, like in Minnesota, because it's different with every state, they will honor a detainer. But at the local ones, they do not. And again, ICE is doing a horrible job, and especially under the Trump administration. They're pitiful in the amount of people they've deported so far compared to other administrations. They absolutely need to step up their game. So hopefully that happens. Hopefully nobody else gets hurt. Hopefully people comply with ICE. They are a law enforcement agency. Whether you think they have the right or not, you know what? At the end of the day, you'll be able to go home and kiss your kids if you comply.
Would you support deporting people with dual citizenship with Israel?
Hey, Chip, how you been?
Would you support deporting people who have dual citizenship with Israel, who are talking about Israel all the time?
If they have dual citizenship, I don't believe in dual citizenship, but if they have that, I think they need to make a choice whether they're going to support, America or another country. So I'm not a fan of dual citizenship whatsoever.
Was your handle World Peace? Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Do you go to Millie's live?
I don't know who Millie is, but
okay. I
might though. I just don't remember.
There's like a mod that sits on there, and I thought his name was World.
That's Mideast.
Okay. Thank you. World Peace, Mideast. I'm not sure we're going to get world peace out of the Mideast, but hey, yeah, I could see why I got that messed up.
Disagree with that about the local law enforcement and government cooperating with ICE before they're even on the street?
Okay, so, what I can say is that the state is under no obligation to help them, right? I mean, constitutionally speaking, they don't have to. Whenever, however, a prison has somebody that they know is not a citizen, I think it's absolutely ridiculous that the prison won't inform ICE or, whatever authority they need to before they release that person. That seems stupid to me. Like, I just, I understand it, but you're dealing with like prisoners, somebody who broke the law. You should probably call ICE or somebody. However,
why wouldn't you want any criminal out? Why would it have to be on a state or federal level? If it's a criminal and they're not supposed to be here, I think everyone should be able to agree that they shouldn't be here.
Well, sure, but he was talking about specifically the detainers from prisons. Because you're not going to know.
They're required to do it, but state, local is not. That's the problem.
Well, that's what you said, yeah. I think it's ridiculous that local prisons or state prisons don't do that. That's absurd. Well,
in Minnesota they do, but not at the local jail level.
The county, county jail they do not. Right.
Well, but to that point, they aren't arresting those people anyway. That's not who they're going after.
They've already been arrested.
Right, but ICE, that's not what ICE is trying to do. When Obama was very successful, he wasn't just going to jails and picking those people up from jails, right? That's not all he was doing. The majority of immigrants that they deport aren't coming from jails. I don't know that they ever did. So, you're like, yes, I agree with you, but that still leaves us with the problem of them going and accosting somebody who has dark skin and has an accent, and that being the only evidence they have to believe that person might not be a U.S. citizen. I think that's bullshit. And what that has done is made it so that nobody trusts them because they're doing overreach, and because there's a lack of trust, nobody is going to be willing to help them at this point. So if Donald Trump had really wanted to be effective with removing migrants, he shouldn't have done it in the way that he did because it caused people to be pissed off.
That's right.
And he,
I wouldn't
he
say
lost
nobody's
the
helping
trust.
them. Half the country's going to help them.
Well, clearly we see that that's not true.
Oh, okay.
I mean, am I wrong? I mean, because when let me just play this video. I've got it queued up. When ICE is doing shit like this, and when the government tells them that they can just invade your home or your business with an administrative warrant that isn't necessarily signed by a judge, not even an immigration judge, and they do shit like this, this doesn't breed trust.
What the look at what the they did. Look at all this. You think they did that with the warrant? Look at this. Look at these. Where's your guys' warrant?
Stay back.
Where's your guys' warrant?
Stay back.
No, where's your warrant?
Stay back.
Where's the warrant?
You stand right there.
Where's the warrant?
I don't need one.
Yes, you do.
And so when you have agents that are just saying that, we don't need one, while standing in private property in a business that they literally admit that they broke into, I'm sorry, they're not going to get what they're trying to get because that's not how you get things done in this country. It just isn't.
I can respect your opinion, but the Supreme Court thinks otherwise. They are allowed on administrative warrant to go in. So
No.
she can sit there and yell all day long, but I'm telling you, those
they
people
aren't.
that voted for Trump are going to help out every way they can. You might think that they're not, but I guarantee half the people in the country are helping ICE when they have an opportunity.
The Supreme Court has not said that they can sign their own warrant because, for the record, an administrative warrant can be signed by a supervisory ICE official, doesn't have to be an immigration judge. It's
Right.
literally them giving themselves permission to go
Yes.
into your property. So the Supreme Court has never ruled that they're allowed to do that. What you just said is false.
Well, then why isn't somebody challenging them
They are.
and hauling them in court
What do you think? It takes
and stopping
time.
their activity?
And look, you're like, hey, if you don't like it, spend money on an attorney, take the U.S. government to court because that's so easy. How about instead of that, we just expect that our administration, our government, is going to respect the Constitution, which restricts them?
And does it come, like, do you see that as being right or wrong? Like, you without the government, like, deciding that for you, what's right or wrong, like, to you?
I'll be right back.
I support ICE. And an administrative warrant, which doesn't have to be signed by a judge, as the host said, they have that opportunity and the ability to go in. So if you don't like it, they don't have to pay for an attorney on their own. They have ACLU or other government agencies that can help them out. If they had
Well, why does the tax why do my tax dollars have to pay for someone's rights being violated? Because if you're successful at the lawsuit because they violated your rights, they're getting my money, not the money of the officer who violated my rights. They're getting my money. And aren't you all about smaller government? Isn't that what conservatism is smaller government? And yet now you're saying it's okay for the government to get their own warrant from a fellow officer because somebody doesn't look like they belong here. That doesn't sound right. Even I want to apologize to Debo, by the way. I just get really passionate about this because I have family members who could be affected by this, who are legal citizens. Because it happens. A 5-year-old almost starved to death because he was in a place he shouldn't have been in because he was a citizen.
That 5-year-old you're talking about, the father abandoned, ran away.
Did not. They,
and ICE
you know
took
what?
care of that 5-year-old.
I watched it live on YouTube.
Is there more than one 5-year-old?
How it happened. That's not how it happened. Stop
We all
it.
watch videos and come away with different interpretations.
No, stop.
You don't?
They got him from school. His mom asked for him.
That sounds like a different 5-year-old then.
Really?
I'm talking about the 5-year-old where they went for the father. The father left the kid, ran away, and they took the kid and they helped him out and got him into shelter because we're talking about Minnesota, colder
No,
than hell.
that's not what happened. Oh my gosh, you guys seriously don't believe
That's
my
the
lying
talking
eyes?
point they came up with, was that the father abandoned them. There's no evidence to support that. That statement, for the record, that statement came from the liars themselves. The ones who shot Alex Preddy, disarmed him first and then shot him and then went out and told you that this man walked up to them with a 9mm and he came there to massacre ICE agents. That's what they said just after they unalived the guy. So you can't believe what they say, but that's what they said. There's no evidence, there's no proof that the father had abandoned that child. None.
And also, if you go check out the video that I have, it also looks like that ICE is the ones who planted the magazines on him. A guy filming it from a car. Go watch.
How would they
believe
know?
your eyes.
Wait a minute.
Go
How do you
believe
plant
your
a
eyes.
magazine on somebody? How do you know what cartridge they're using?
I don't believe that they did that, and nor would it matter if he had 12 fucking magazines on his person.
Right.
This is America.
Very
real
sprinkle
quick,
too much fairy dust, I think.
Debo, and I tried to say this before he left, but Debo, I appreciate you coming up because I saw Studs in there earlier upset that you came up on my show. I don't know why they hate me. I think Studs is a Republican, so there's this group of Republicans that I guess have latched onto these Zio Democrats that hate me and are not wanting anybody to come up on my show. So Studs came in here to be shitty to Debo, and Debo stayed, so I appreciate that, Debo. Okay, with that said, let me get around the room. Who would like to respond next?
If I may, to go back to the question as far as the Supreme Court and their feelings on administrative warrants, the controlling precedent at the current time still tends to be Camara versus Municipal Court in 1967, which clearly defined that administrative warrants can be used in legitimate bureaucratic processes such as safety inspections, but said that they are definitionally distinct from criminal warrants. And not only that, the Supreme Court has repeatedly emphasized that warrants have to be issued by a neutral, detached magistrate, not someone who's actually doing the actual investigating or the functionary duty of the warrant. So as far as what the Supreme Court has said in the past, they've completely ruled against what ICE is currently arguing for.
Why aren't they shutting him down?
He's ignoring the law. He's ignoring the law. Donald Trump and his administration. I mean, there was a point where they were told by a court to not use like riot control shit and like all the stuff that they were doing because riot control isn't their job, and they were doing it anyway. They don't care.
Yeah. Plus, he also has the shielding of the recent Supreme Court decision that says that so long as he is performing what is quote unquote an official act, he can't be held criminally liable for it.
Trump, but the other people, unless Trump gives them a pardon, which he probably will, but they can be held to account. And they should be.
A federal pardon, but not state pardons.
Right.
I mean, fundamentally, we're flawed beyond, like, ICE is a big problem right now. Epstein, another big problem. Fundamentally, at our core, we have an issue that we, from the right, are divided from the left as much as we ever have been, and almost to the point of violence. And we don't have our speaker, the president, saying to us, like, and I'm sorry to deride, but he's not saying to us, hey guys, we don't need a fight like this. This is why we vote. Some things we can agree to disagree on. We do not need to be completely fighting each other, destabilized to the point where, for what reason for whatever reason he wants that and doesn't, isn't it, I don't understand why it wasn't clear to him. To me, it just seems like he's a bad person and has intentions that we don't know about.
Can I comment?
Yes, absolutely. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, I just want to say, right, and I know I sound like a broken record. So I'm a conservative, but I'm on this panel for a reason because what I I used to focus on left versus right politics, but I think we have something more extreme, going on here, and it's bottom versus top. And I think there was that Democrat representative, I guess who's running in Texas. I forgot his name. I know it's Jasmine Crockett versus the other one. I forgot his name, but I think he said it. He said it well, and he said that it's not left versus right; it's bottom versus top. And I think my fear is that if we don't identify issues of human dignity and band together like quickly, right? I'm not saying that we throw caution to the wind and we don't care about the details. I'm just saying that we identify that that's a problem. We could disagree, on how to, resolve it. But then what's going to end up happening, then the people at the top, they don't really care if they're left or right. They make money off of dividing people. It becomes, a profitable industry, for them. And then they just watch us, as almost influenced puppets, just carving each other out, and they just keep on gaining more and more power. And I find that to be a major problem, and it's only going to get worse with big tech, with big data, with AI. So I don't know. I think to land my plane on this immigration issue is that I think that if we don't trust ICE versus us, ICE doesn't, or the feds don't trust like the people to be okay. I think the burden is always going to be on a government and a governmental agency, right? If the people don't trust them, then is that the people's fault? That's not the people's fault. That's the government's fault, because the government is not given the reasons. The moment we flip it around and say, no, it's the people's fault, then I think that's the moment in which we have not only big government, but we lose the safeguard to the federal government's power.
Absolutely right. Great fucking point, APAC. Go ahead, Scissors.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I was just saying that.
Yeah, well, then let me bring in the new people. We've got Babyface and Data. Babyface, go ahead.
I just want to understand, for the people who are defending these actions, if a Democrat gets in office, or if they operate outside of the law, are you going to just comply with them? Just kind of want to know. Because compliance is not something America was built on. If we find something that's inhumane or doesn't make sense legally, we stand up against. We protested in the 1960s a lot of things we tried to change. Civil rights, we changed several safety net programs, Medicare, Medicaid. Democrats also created Social Security. I think if you look at history as a whole, Democrats have done more for our society than Republicans have.
I mean, sure. But that doesn't change where we are now, which is it. What is your other account, Babyface? I recognize your voice, but I can't remember what your other account is that I know you by.
Alibi 65.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there something wrong with that account, or you just hopping around?
I'm getting backups because you can barely say anything on here anymore.
Gotcha.
So.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, no, I mean, sure, Babyface, I appreciate that. Now, Data, go ahead.
What's up, everyone? What's up, Liberal?
Not much.
Just kind of jumping in here. I just kind of joined, and I heard somebody was saying up versus down, and yeah, it's divisive. And I guess I would add to that I think politics at its core is kind of designed to be divisive. I think that's kind of the point. I think we largely elect, officials to write legislation and then figure out how to spend our money to enforce that legislation. And I think that being said, I think it kind of is divisive. It's kind of a yes or a no. It's we can or we cannot. It's we have enough money or we don't. And I think at its core, that being said, it is divisive, and that's okay. I think we shouldn't be afraid of that. Some people want some things that other people don't want. Some people want some laws that other people don't want. Some people want to spend some money on some things that other people don't want, and we should fight over that. I'm not afraid of it.
I mean, sure, that's like, I take your point, and I think it's well made. I think the difference, though, is like dividing them for the purpose of making sure that nobody comes together on any particular topic. For example, take the immigration issue. This is something that Obama deported many, many, many people, even to the to the chagrin of his own base. And then now you've got Donald Trump, who made the biggest stink about immigration. It's this political football that he was using, to the point where he contacted them and said, don't pass this because I need it, as this political football. And then when he gets in there, he is cruel and he is violating rights left and right, but he's actually not efficient at all. So, it was just all bullshit. They're all lying about it, right? They make up these things in order to feed, shit to their base, but then go in there and don't actually do it. And that part is different, maybe than what you were talking about. And I don't necessarily disagree with what you're saying. People didn't disagree on certain policies or whatever, but I think we're going beyond that.
Well, would you say that it's kind of a polar opposite of a policy, or not opposite, but like Democrats are much more lenient and open with their immigration policies, and Republicans are much more strict and closed with their immigration policies? I mean, and I see that in Trump, and I think Biden or Obama was the example you used. So it's a yes, we can have immigrants, or no, we can't.
Well, I don't know that that's actually factual, because the guy that gave them amnesty was a Republican. And the Democrats, largely speaking, have deported more than the Republicans, even though the Republicans are the ones that run on the issue. But see,
very ironic.
It is very ironic. But see, I because to their Republicans' mind, this is my opinion, I don't think it has anything to do with immigration at all. It is a means to an end. It is a way to be cruel. It is a dog whistle to go against people of color, which is what we're seeing now. I think that's what it was always about. It wasn't actually about like removing people. It was about treating other people as others. But that's also a different topic, I guess.
I'd love to tag in on that if I can. Oh, you can go first.
Yeah, my question for you: if these were Swedes and people from Finland sneaking in, and breaking the laws and coming in, do you think the conservative? Do you think the MAGA people just ignore it because they're white?
I mean, yeah, I do think that. Yeah. Well, and it's not necessarily that they would ignore it if they knew that this person was illegal. I think they would ignore it because that person is white. Right?
Yeah,
and so they wouldn't like walk up to this white person and be like, "Are you a U.S. citizen?" They'll just assume that they are. But when you're a person of color, they'll walk up and, "Are you a U.S. citizen?" So I think therein lies the difference. So I think that they would enforce it, and we've seen this in the past to some degree, people that are from, European nations or white nations, as it were.
But it's only one party that kind of enforces it that way. I mean, did Democrats pass stop and frisk, or did Republicans do that?
I'm not sure when the first stop and frisk law came in, and I think that was more local.
I think that was New York City.
Yeah, I think it was New York City.
Probably was.
I'm trying to, I jumped in on the conversation about the divisiveness of up versus down.
Was that under Rudy?
I think so. But I'm trying to stay around that. The reason that it is divisive is because I think we have, a two-party system, and we have two parties that are kind of on polar opposites of the issues, and largely revolving around, yes, we have enough money, or no, we don't. Yes, we can do this, or no, we can't. Yes, we are conservative, yes, we are progressive, or no, we are conservative.
I have a question for Baby. Do you think things are worse now or back in the 60s?
I think it's very similar, actually. The things that are going on now, I would compare, because if you remember, there was a string of people being unalived. Well, that's been kind of happening again. public officials, people in politics, people like CK. There's a lot of similarities. It's bad. It's different though, because we actually overcame a lot of the abuses, and we were making progress from the 1960s. Now we seem to be wanting to go back to it, and that's my point.
Baby, we survived. They put in new people. You know, I talk to some people on the left and they think, my gosh, the country is imploding. You know, if we don't take care of this today, there won't be a country literally tomorrow. And yet I think back in the 60s, it was just as bad, maybe even worse. And here we are now, another 50, 60 years later, and everything seems to be fine. We'll get through this one way or the other. Doesn't matter what side you're on. New politicians. Pardon me?
It doesn't necessarily seem fine when, you know, there's killings within these, you know, these ICE. It's not fine. Like, we haven't grown much when it comes to racism. Not a whole lot with sexism. You know, maybe a little bit, maybe an inch. You know, one step forward, two steps back. But I'm not trying to be negative or anything. I'm gonna clear out because I gotta move on with my day. But the one thing I did want to interject and say, and I'm sorry, but the fundamental, you know, building blocks of the government, and as alone they are good. There isn't, but like the intention behind them also has to be good. The divide that we have between us, like, I just wanted to say this because I just keep coming back to it. The divide between the left, right, and left is bad, worse than, like, very, very bad. And why isn't our president speaking strictly to us for this? Like, he is the speaker. He's not the total end-all, be-all, like, answer, but he could help. With that, I appreciate you having me up. Everybody take care.
Yeah, thank you, Lauren. Appreciate that.
If I could go ahead with a couple questions, if y'all don't mind.
Sure.
I have a question for, thank you, I appreciate it. I have a question for people who are like liberal/left leaning. I've heard a lot of talk about like legality since all this started. What would you do if it was legal? If every judge in the country was giving ICE permission to do what they were doing, would you be okay with it or would you not? Because my distaste for this talk about, oh, well, what they're doing is legal or, oh, it's not, is like, at some point you have to recognize that the law is not morality. And if the law is wrong, you have to stand against it. So I don't think this whole back and forth for, you know, is what they're doing legal? I don't think it's useful. I think the question we need to be asking is, what should be the reaction to someone not having proper documentation? If your answer to that is you should be taken from your home and shipped off to another country, you and I don't agree. Because I would not ever advocate for that for somebody who just doesn't have paperwork. My question for the people who are right-leaning is, think about all the problems you have with somebody being an undocumented immigrant, okay? I've heard talk of, will they take up housing? Will they take up jobs? Yada, yada, yada. Who has more power in that scenario? Is it the immigrant who's just looking for a job and shelter, or is it the boss who's intentionally hiring immigrants so that they can abuse and pay them less? Who should be held to more accountable? The person looking for shelter or the person actively seeking out people they can exploit? And then ask yourself how the law was designed. Was it designed to go after the immigrant or after the people abusing the immigrants? And then ask yourself why. And the other thing that goes along with this, and I'll say this very briefly because I don't want you to get in trouble or anything, but if this were about legality, we would not see people going towards immigrants. We would see everybody looking towards, in government and in law enforcement, we would see them looking towards all the new e-files that just dropped. That's what we would be doing if any of this were about legality. Because you have plenty of evidence right there to go after. That's not what this is about.
It's a good point.
Yeah. Yeah, now I forgot the first question you asked the liberals, but
what would you do if it was legal? What would you all do if it was legal? You know?
Oh, I would fight against it, obviously.
Right, yeah, me too.
Yeah.
But that's kind of my point on why talking about the legality is just going to go in circles with people.
But the fight,
I guess my answer.
The fight is different because then you're fighting from a standpoint of that law is wrong rather than it's legal or not. Because
well, right, but that's
where
where I stand is the law is wrong. And if you don't stand there with me, then we don't agree.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, because, all laws are just, it's all bullshit. It's something that people made up. It's just a law that we determined other people are going to have to follow and, so, and that it can all be changed. APEC, were you trying to jump in there?
Yeah,
all right, go ahead, man.
I just want to, so I try not to focus so much on process and because I've tried to focus more on the outcome. Like, for example, like if in the case of what's going on with ICE, I see, people getting hurt. And people can say, okay, well, it's complying with law. I don't know about you, but if there's a law that says that, my family has the right to be hurt or it's going to, cause them harm. I mean, am I going to care more about, my family or am I going to care about the law? Now, I'm not advocating lawlessness, right? I think laws are important, for a civilized society. But I think that just like there's a reason why new laws are constantly passed and we have congressmen and legislators. There's a reason because laws are imperfect. And I think the fact that we can analyze the fact and accept the fact that laws are imperfect and could be the force for change, I think that's a good thing. That's a beautiful thing. And I think that's something that we should, strive for. And I want to close with, I think it was Data, I think, said, I think you were referencing my left versus right, bottom versus top. All I'm saying is that we must be critical of those people in the top, right? Because they have the most power, the most influence. And if we're not weary, what tends to happen economically is that the rich are going to get richer by definition, right? Carried interest, saving, they have more means. But also we have to be weary of those in power, congressmen. That's how the Constitution was framed too, right? To shackle the federal government, for a reason. It's not to say that we hate them. No, it's just to say that we should hold them to a higher standard.
And they're supposed to serve us, not themselves.
Exactly. So,
I would say
let's
that
be
my
honest.
reverence,
I find it ironic that they expect us to obey laws that they themselves just ignore. Look at the Epstein files, as Farah pointed out. Like, they've been doing this shit. They protected them. The FBI charged them, gave this guy the red carpet treatment in prison, fucking let him do it, and they were all in on this shit. Like, and then they want to turn around and be like, you can't do that because that's illegal. Fuck you. They're like, that should be our, outlook on that. It's like, fuck your morality because you have none. Now, I heard a male voice, and I think Scissor has been trying to jump in. If that was you, Scissor, please go ahead.
Yeah, well, I was going to say that I guess my reverence for the law extends to the extent of its function to deliver, what it's supposed to do in society, which is to provide fairness and an equal playing ground for everybody, or equal, what I'm talking about. But anyway, I guess what I'm trying to say is that just because something is legal doesn't mean it's okay, and just because something is okay doesn't make it legal. So as far as to answer, I guess, Farah's question, as far as how I would feel if everything, was suddenly declared as legal as what ICE is doing. Well, obviously, I would not be happy about it, and therefore I would act upon my pathway as a citizen to effect change on that, which is to vote. Which brings me back to my point that I made some minutes ago, that I think that's the critical junction in all of this, is that with this upcoming election, if it's free and fair, so be it. But if there's any, I guess, for lack of a better word, tomfoolery, then we have been the one legitimate pathway we have to effect change has been taken. And at that point, I feel we may have a duty as Americans to basically seek other avenues of change as necessary.
I agree with you.
I would love to respond to that last little bit if I can just have like 10 seconds.
Sure, go for it.
Yeah, so the avenue you have in American is not voting. We've had Obama in office, right? And we've had Trump in office. And the same thing is happening under ICE. Obama has the record deportations, right? Obama did the same thing you don't like currently. And so if you want to talk about avenues you have, like organized strikes is one we should all be talking about. Organized boycotts is one we could be talking about. And I mean, frankly, just like throwing trash around and stuff like they're doing in LA is an avenue of stuff we should be doing. And most of us aren't even doing that. And we're only now starting to see it because of the way the Trump administration is presenting what it's doing, not because of what it's actually doing, because we've had politicians on both sides of the aisle do exactly this.
Yeah, no, we do talk about striking and boycotting a lot.
Pathways. Yeah, I guess I should clarify that. I guess I'm not saying voting is the only way to legitimately act. You're absolutely right. Demonstrating and everything is absolutely, and I encourage that too. I guess I'm talking about like what steps do we have to take where we have to act outside the law, and I don't want to elaborate beyond that.
Well, I mean, and that's a fair point, because like if the thing that you have that supposedly can't be taken away is taken away from you, which is during an erection, what else is left? What else is left?
At some point, well, absolutely. At some point, any disenfranchised group of people has to make a decision that, at some point, at what point have you taken enough casualties to realize that you're in a war?
Yeah.
Right.
Now, Data, I thought I heard you jump in there.
The only thing I wanted to tack on, and then I'll shut up, is like, I just think it's important that the audience and everyone on the panel understand that, like, the voting thing has been done. We should be talking about other avenues.
Farrah, you made a good point a minute ago about when undocumented people are here and they're working, who's more responsible. And I would absolutely say that the law should favor the undocumented worker more than the employer that's hiring him. So there has to be penalties for employers that are hiring these undocumented workers, and pretty strict ones too. And there's nothing out there that I'm aware of.
I agree. And I think another thing to point out is
Biden did go after several thousand companies for violating immigration laws. And,
good.
And
Not aware of that.
Yeah, but it's something that a lot of people don't talk about. I think even in Trump's first term, there wasn't nearly as many as Biden's, but he also did go after them, but not on any grand scale. Not on any grand scale.
Are we talking about $100 million company that gets $1,000 fine?
Yeah.
Was there any teeth to it?
I'd have to look it up, but it was probably small and mid-sized companies, because they grease their fucking palms, and that's how you deal with it. That's,
Right.
Yeah, it's pretty fucked up. Now, Farrah, I think you were talking, and then I'd like to hear from Chip. I haven't heard from him in a minute, and also Data, but go ahead if you were going to finish your point.
Yeah, the only thing I wanted to tack on was like, what you said regarding, we need more legislation on the employer rather than the immigrant. The other thing, I hear a lot of Republicans talk about, we don't want more immigrants in this country. There's already a housing shortage. There's already a ton of people who are unemployed. And like, I understand that. But like the other thing that's left out of that conversation is both Democrats and Republicans are completely bipartisan when it comes to destabilizing other countries. You can't say like, oh, where are all these immigrants coming from, when you just destabilize their entire country. One of my own personal friends is here legally. He has his paperwork and everything. But one of my own friends is here because Hillary Clinton helped overthrow his country. Like what the hell? Right. You can't, like, you have to acknowledge those things. Yeah. It was Honduras. But you have to, like, you have to take in both things and say, like, if we don't want people from other countries coming here, if that's your stance, fine. But that means we should be holding every politician to account who's meddling in other countries that don't have anything to do with us. We should not be sanctioning other countries that have never laid military foot in our country. That's psychotic. Like, of course, people from that country tried to escape to somewhere. You know what I mean?
Yep. Now, these are companies that Trump in this term has gone after. Let me see, more than $8 million in proposed fines from federal immigration authorities for employing at least 143 unauthorized workers. Penalties appear to be the largest such fines levied anywhere in the U.S. since President Trump took office earlier this year. Of course, I was looking for Biden's. I'm sure I'll find them, but I don't believe he ever went after any large organization for the practice. And I doubt Trump will either, unless they don't pay him an illegal tax. Give me some money and send me some Bitcoin. Anyway, Chip, did you have something you wanted to add on?
Yeah, the military, when they have their hardware, a lot of it gets passed on to the local police forces. Unfortunately, and I know a lot of people are trying to think outside the voting box, which I agree with you, but the resistance route that we probably could have done in 1750 or 1850, the type of weaponry now that the police have in terms of directed energy and microwaves and other things that are just unspeakably horrible, it's just going to make it very difficult to use that approach. I've spoken about this again. I don't want to beat a dead horse, but our true power lies in our organization with our economic collective power. It's no different. Just think about a company and a union. We're in the same predicament as a bunch of exploited workers. It's just that the workforce is most of the country, and the power structure of the shareholders and management. That's the national security state / war machine / oligarchy. And right now, excuse me, I'm trading, by the way, so I'm going to have to jump in and book some profits here for a second. So yeah, this is what I do while I'm listening to these lives, is just trade all day. So I think if we it's very hard. It's very hard to organize. Okay, and nobody wants to deal with the headaches of it and all the personal sacrifices. And I get it all. Not everybody can do it. Ziotalk was accurate in pointing that out. Some people don't have the luxury of being able to even think about this stuff, much less take part in it. But for those that can, a critical mass of numbers has to come to bear in some degree to have leverage. Right now, the voter, you and I, or even our community, we have no leverage. And the people that are quote unquote put in office, they don't respond to anything other than pressure. And us writing a letter to the editor or protesting or even stomping our feet in the halls of Congress doesn't exert enough pressure or leverage to make them do anything differently. And if you say, well, I'm going to withhold my vote then, they don't give a shit. Nobody gives a shit. AIPAC, as long as they can grease both sides of the skids, they got both sides taken care of. It doesn't matter who we vote for. It's a fait accompli. So things like, I hate to say this, a pain in the ass, but it can be up to in any of these things: withholding your labor, not putting your kids in school, not buying anything from any major corporation other than absolute survival essentials, not paying your taxes, not paying your student loans, not paying your credit cards, not paying your mortgage or car payment, not paying your insurance premiums. I know it sounds scary, like, oh my God, well, but what about, fill in the blank of fear? Yes, I get it. We're gonna let me finish. We're gonna have to build on the side of this ancillary support systems, much like a union has a union fund, because if you don't have that, then people can't, the fear is too much and they suffer. So we have to build community support systems, alternative localized economies, and survival periods. We're gonna have to go through a period of hardship to change the systemic rot. It's otherwise, if we don't want to take on that lump of coal, which I don't want to either, but if we choose not to, we're going to get what we get with more of the same, in my view.
It might also help, though, to know how big the lump of coal might have to be, though, too. I mean, what number would
as big as you can make it
be contributors? Would it take to reach that critical mass level? Because 100% would be great, but I don't think it necessarily would actually require 100%. Nor could you reach it. But
probably more like
30%.
Maybe like 8 to 10% would be enough to tilt you. You can type it into ChatGPT. What if 10% of every adult American participated in the following activities? What would happen to the economy, and what negotiating stance would that give the public versus the current system? Type something like that in and see what it says.
Yeah, because a lot of those corporations operate under debt loads. Like they don't turn profits because they'll take in whatever money and then immediately spend it on trying to grow like market share and shit. Look at DoorDash, and fucking Grubhub, and all those companies. It's like a fucking Ponzi scheme almost. And the moment you remove any of that stuff, that they'll start to flounder. And a lot of companies do that.
Last year's Black Friday sales were some of the record high sales in history, but I think 92% of those sales were purchased through debt and credit.
Jesus
people
Christ.
Don't have cash. People don't have cash to pay for that shit. There's a lot happening in this conversation, so it's hard to just kind of jump in. I think one of the things that might sum up a lot of the things that are being discussed is just the First Amendment alone, the redress of government, or specifically, which does allow for petitioning, lobbying, lawsuits, and rallies. And I think that last one, being rallies, is important. There are other amendments that can be included in this redress of government as well. Specifically, I think the second comes to mind in terms of like at least applying forceful negotiation tactics. I'm not talking physical. I'm just talking, presentational. I think on a state level, those types of rallies, which in the 60s took place, is enough to get state and local localities to petition the federal government on redress of grievances, and I think that has the means to cause a lot of changes. And I also want to say that, aside from enacting those two amendments and seeking change, voting most certainly plays a part and has a massive influence. And I would be skeptical of anybody who tells you otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, but you're talking about wait, did you say voting? The people saying that voting doesn't have an influence is bad? Maybe I misheard.
Yeah,
you.
I said voting along with everything else that I just included, specifically just the first two amendments that I was talking about, definitely has an influence. And I said anybody who tells you that voting doesn't have an influence, I'd be skeptical of those people.
Oh, right. Well, everybody should absolutely vote. I mean, Jesus, how many people set out this last election? Fucking hell.
It's so common that we hear now. It's becoming a daily common theme throughout multiple lives that I hear people saying voting doesn't matter, and I have to push back on that at every opportunity I get, because it's absolutely incorrect.
I think I think when people say that, they're talking about more so the fact that the parties have gate-kept people who are going to fight for the interest of the corporation.
Correct.
Those parties are gatekeeping the people that would actually progress us forward. They keep them out.
That brings me back to one of the other points that I have written down here, which is money out of politics. And I think that issue that's a big part of the reason for the division.
And that requires a constitutional amendment to fix, sadly.
Do you mind if I chime in on this?
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
I'd love to add more. I don't think voting is useless. But I think regardless of whether you have a Democrat or Republican in power is more or less useless in the sense that they are both driving to the same destination. Democrats might drive slower than Republicans, but they're driving to the same place. Money out of politics, I think, is huge, but it's also something we've had before, right? When you allow corporations to exist as they do in this society where someone at the top controls where all the profits go, at the end of the day, they're going to do everything they can to put those profits in their pockets and not the pockets of the workers. And the best way to do that is to get money into politics somehow. And so my point is, we had no money in politics to some extent before, and what we watched happen was that get taken away. You can take money back out of politics, but if you don't change the way money is done in this country, where corporations can just hoard loads and loads of it, eventually they're going to get somebody back in office who will take that right back away from you. And you can fight this constant battle of trying to get money out of politics, and then it gets back in, and then you got to fight hard to get it back out, or you can change the system. But I think if you're not willing to change the system, you're stuck in a loop.
Right.
Best case scenario.
Are you saying that we need to have money in politics to protect from money in politics?
No. What I am saying is that the way corporations must be run is through democracy of the workers. The workers must be in control of what happens to the profits, not a singular executive at the top who eventually turns himself into an oligarch. Because if you can structure it that way, it will be structured that way. Because why, if you control what happens to the profits, would you not want to be an oligarch? And if you don't want to be an oligarch, you will be outdone by someone who does. Because that's how it's incentivized.
I'm just confused at why you think that we would need to have a place for money in politics to protect.
I don't. You are completely misunderstanding everything I'm saying.
Okay, I must have
what I am saying is the only way to actually keep money out of politics is to ensure that businesses and corporations cannot be set up like oligarchs. You cannot have heads of massive corporations in control of what happens to the profits. So
like a co-op is what you're talking about.
Yeah, because basically those profits will be thrown into politics, whether you like it or not.
Where the employees have a say in what happens to the profit after it's been made once the year is up.
I think we're specifically just talking about Citizens United and the ability of people to hide their money within super PACs and donate massive amounts of money.
But my point is Citizens United is an inevitability if you allow CEOs to operate as they do.
It's not.
You cannot avoid Citizens United.
You can just repeal it.
You can
get a
do both
legislation.
things, right? So one
You can
will
appeal
fix
it.
the
You
other,
can get it taken back.
and it's not a bad.
But it's gonna come back.
Well, so the logic of Citizens United was actually pretty sound, right? Because what it said was like, if you are a company and you support a candidate and you're running that and you have money to spend on an advertisement and you're not colluding with the candidate themselves, you have a right to tell people, hey, I like this candidate and this is why. That's freedom of speech.
Right, but the outcome of that is not hidden.
Yes, but
right?
that's why you need a constitutional amendment to fix this, because it is a bug in the system that shouldn't be there, and that wasn't its intent, but it's there because of freedom of speech. And
right. So my argument is it's not a bug; it's a feature. It's a feature that was inevitable because somebody is going to lobby for that eventually.
But are you
sure?
Are
Right.
you
Like
under
we
the-
even know Clarence Thomas is in the pockets of other billionaires, right? Like he's going on yacht trips for funsies.
So when we're talking
and he's
about
still on the Supreme Court.
campaign finance contributions, like you understand that every dollar could be traced back to the person that contributed it, right?
Sure.
So
Not
And-
only
and
is
it-
Clarence
so
Thomas taking money, he's
and-
also
and
like
you-
taking helicopter trips to Russia.
And you understand that Citizens United, prevents us from being able to see who is contributing that money, correct?
Dark money. Yeah.
Okay,
money.
so showing that up would be one step in, securing corrupt, means to get people elected, wouldn't it?
Yeah. So if you fix that, how are you going to stop it from being undone again?
Well, you just would have to wait for whatever other corruption comes up and then deal with that. It sounds like you.
That's my point. You're in a loop.
Can I please
You're
just
just
finish?
waiting for corruption
No,
to
no.
fight.
It sounds like you. It sounds like you don't think that we should stop something from happening because other things are going to happen anyways.
No, I'm saying you have to change the system or it will keep happening.
Okay, are you opposed for repealing Citizens United or in favor of it?
No, I'm in favor of it. But my point is, you also have to change society.
Yeah, I mean, so I think we're arguing two different things here, but conflating them both, because one fixes one issue, and Farah's point about like the co-op type setup of companies, that fixes a whole host of other issues as well. And it's better for the worker too. But again, you can do the Citizens United independently from the other thing. The other thing isn't necessary, to fix that other problem.
Yes, you could. Yeah.
Are you suggesting more like a German model where the workers have more say? Is that more or less what you're saying?
I don't know what the German model is at the moment. My
It's like
model
a
is
co-op.
anti-capitalist.
Yeah, it's like a co-op basically, where the people have a say.
I think democratic
The workers.
socialism under our current economic, and I think it's aiming for a socialist model, it sounds like, which I'm all about. But I still think that repealing and dealing with Citizens United would be a step in that direction.
Yes, I agree.
Absolutely. And corporations are not people. Okay, let's we need to get rid of that. That's some bullshit. I don't know. We got some serious problems, and it's going to take a lot of work to fix all of these problems. But that's one of the silver linings behind Donald Trump, as he put such a big fucking spotlight on all the things that people have done over the years, more behind the scenes, where it wasn't so noticeable. I mean, you knew it was there, but it wasn't so obvious. He's taken a spotlight and shined it on all of those cracks. To me, that's a good thing. Because now we know.
He didn't drain the swamp, but he definitely illuminated it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. He turned the light off and had night vision goggles to see where all the roaches were coming out of.
I wanted to comment on data. I joined the live because you were talking about voting and how important it is, and you were just saying that anyone who would steer you away from voting or say that voting isn't that important, you would be really weary of that person, and I wholeheartedly agree. But I would like to bring up the statistic that out of there's 12 to 15 fascist regimes throughout the history of the world. And there's a few that are arguable whether or not they were actually fascism, but whatever, semantics. Out of the total number, about 15 fascist government controls, only 20% of them have been fought and overpowered through the power of voting and collective bargaining. The other 80% of them were only ever defeated, and some weren't even completely defeated. Some still remain in power today through, like violent action, essentially. And so, there's that's a really scary statistic throughout history, is that only 20% of fascist control has ever been taken out or overpowered with the power of voting and collective bargaining. And there will come a point, if we're not able to, voting is absolutely a powerful thing for sure. But currently right now, with just the story yesterday that came out where Trump is trying to nationalize the votes in certain states so that he can essentially take the voting power away from the states. That just with that happening, just yesterday, there may come a point where voting will not change what we're experiencing right now in America, and that is statistically very likely to happen.
Yeah, well, I mean, if that's, when that's the case, it won't be a democracy. It'll be whoever is able to and willing to wrest control of the apparatus with which we have our erections. And so that's
a lot of that ties back
authoritarianism.
to, a lot of that ties back to the big corporations that you guys were talking about, and Citizens United is they are actually going to be the ones who are controlling exactly who's in power and exactly which they already kind of do. If you saw that study from 2016 about how much change people can really affect in voting, let's say 100% of everybody voted on this issue, how much of an opportunity or a chance do they have to actually get a bill through that changes that, versus corporations that have a bunch of money? If they voted 100%, how much of a chance do they have in changing it? And even if 100% of the voting base voted for it, there is still only a 20 or 30% chance that a bill will actually get through, put into place to change that, versus a corporation that has nearly a 90% chance of having it go through. It's a really damning study that just shows
I know which one you're talking about.
Voting. Yeah, the voting power of Americans is already it is a very powerful tool, but even if 100% of us all agreed on something, there's still a low chance of us passing.
If I could respond to that, that would be, so yeah, I hear what you're saying. And I disagree with a lot of it. But I also agree with a lot of what you're saying. I think that there's a lot that's missing as well. But I think the biggest part that I disagree with is that I think you said that it will statistically happen or come to the point to where voting will not matter in our.
I just said it could. It could statistically. I know I did say that. I suppose I said statistically it does show that it's more likely to happen.
I disagree
that voting
with
won't
that.
get us out.
And the reason I think I disagree with that is the clicking. The reason I disagree with that is that the oil can, or anyways. Is because I think you're missing, you might be not missing, but overlooking some of the other things I said. I only mentioned two of the amendments that we are not properly enacting, and that would be the first one and the second one. And I definitely didn't want to allude to, or hoping I wasn't making anybody think that I was under the impression that voting is the solution to freedom or really any problem that we have, because it's not. Again, there are a lot of other amendments and a lot of other responsibilities that we have as we the people in order to assure that voting even matters at all. And if we don't do those other things, you're correct. Voting absolutely does not fucking matter at all. And two of the things that we've mentioned right off the top would be Citizens United and the personhood of corporations. If we the people, don't address that, voting not even statistically won't matter. It won't mean a fucking shit like a difference. But as long as we stay on top of all the other things we do, voting will matter. And I think the first part of that, the crumbling of that system is I think it's hand in hand, but I think voting, our disillusion to think voting does nothing is kind of the beginning of the crumbling of that whole fucking system.
Well, without corruption, voting will matter. But when you add in corruption and people's ability or willingness to ignore what the base wants, 70% of everybody wants universal health care or some form of it, and they just won't give it to us. Why?
Correct.
Because they've got to get their donor class taken care of first, and that's part of the corruption. Yes, that's part of the corruption that we're seeing. So without that, absolutely your vote matters, but your vote matters certainly, but it matters less when they engage in those shenanigans like gatekeeping in the parties or, just ignoring what the base actually wants or lying straight to your fucking face and saying, hey, I'm going to run on this platform. And then when you get in there, like, well, and then but then 4 years down the road, you forget that they ran for that, and now you're again voting for somebody that's less bad than the other person. It's
where do these corporations get their money?
From us.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Fuck. Somebody had mentioned earlier about boycotting, and that's definitely part of the solution.
Yeah.
I don't think that we really necessarily organizing will help, and once we really get in that keyed in, it's going to help a lot. But we will begin to organize or boycott regardless. Dollars collapsing, our ability to survive or to want to survive or to work is failing because it doesn't pay the fucking bills. Boycotting will happen. I think a lot of what we're seeing in what we think is this inflation is price gouging because these corporations are not getting the profits that they need to stay in business.
Well, they're not getting the profits in order to give themselves $10 million paydays and stay in business at the same time. Like, those CEOs never fail to get their fucking windfall bonuses, let's be honest.
It's just that every corporation has like they need to see a 3% overall increase every quarter. You know what I mean? And if this has been going on for 15 years, what I mean? And so they really are reaching a point where they've been, bleeding a stone at, taking money out of the lower class and the lower middle class. And they're essentially trying to bleed a stone at this point that there's nothing left to squeeze out of it. Yes. You know what I mean? They've risen it every single year, getting 3% more profit or so, for the last 15, 20 years. And there's just no more to squeeze out.
Yeah. And it's a cultural change that needs to happen too. Where, like this notion that I saw this business's stock like plummeted by 12% or something the other day because their estimates were that they were going to turn, I don't know, almost 3% or whatever, or $3 billion. And they only ended up getting $2 billion in actual profit. And so the stock plummets. And I'm like, wait a second, they still made $2 billion in profit. But people are pissed because they didn't make 3. It's weird. It's a weird cultural thing that we have got going on, I think. And we got to change that also.
They also lose corporate tax status if they do not reach a certain level of profits. I think it has to do with obligations to not just their investors, but also the IRS. Like they get certain tax subsidies only if they meet certain profit requirements. That's what corporate status I believe that's a big part of what corporate status is. And the reason being is because they prove to the government, like, look, we're going to make this amount of money, we'll produce this amount of products, create this amount of jobs, this amount of sales, and the government's all right, you get this amount of tax breaks. But if they don't meet that, then they lose that corporate status and a lot of tax breaks and money shit. But going back to they get their money from us, I don't know, like, I still, I don't know. I think we've just kind of come for full circle, and I'm a little bit fucking dizzy. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, I mean, look, I've stopped buying shit that I don't need. I started back before Thanksgiving. I'm just not buying anything that I don't need. And if people just do that, cut back their spending, because that's how our economy churns. The billionaires will take care of Trump themselves if they start losing money. They'll rectify the problems because they'll see that he's now a liability. But people aren't willing to sacrifice for.
So my issue here is that it feels like Trump and all the billionaire class, they already have all the money. It really feels like we're just like the American public, the lower 98% is just kind of passing around the same $100 bill with each other. You know what I mean? To pay everything. It feels like they got all the money. Trump is literally suing his own government for $10 billion right now. It's like,
no, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, when I hope to God that they freeze all of his assets and like immediately stop him and his entire family from leaving the country. Like the second he's not president anymore, because
if they freeze his assets,
I bet you he leaves the country before.
If they freeze his assets, maybe everybody can finally get their Doge check. They can just take his money and send it out in the form of a Doge check. Thanks, Trump.
My God, there'd be so much money that you could give $1 million to every single person in the country, and there'd still be money left over.
There's only $2.9 trillion cash in circulation. They do have literally all the money. I think that's part of what we're running into, or people are waking up to this scam that our economy and that like all these people that are riding around on yachts and living in mansions and shit, they use credit cards to buy all that shit. None of them have fucking money. All the money they have is in the bank and shit.
We have assets.
My God, you guys are so pathetic. You guys
I
want
know.
everyone else to pay for your lifestyle.
Will you pay for mine? Well, what will you give me?
Fucking losers.
How is everybody paying for our lifestyle?
Fuck that. If this guy over here is
who's
going to pay
paying
for
for
me,
mine?
Give me
I'll
Trump's
just do
money.
it.
I want to see Trump's money. Billionaires shouldn't have a yacht. Come on, man. If they work for it, they should.
Yo,
do
dog, are you a
whatever they want.
billionaire?
What's that?
Yeah.
Are you a billionaire?
Really weird.
I am not.
Really weird work.
Then shut the fuck up.
I will take
Why are you defending them? You're not one of
Because
them.
billionaires employ people and create jobs and opportunities.
They don't
for
create
people.
jobs. If every billionaire vanished
Elon
off the face
Musk
of the earth
doesn't-
tomorrow, I'd still have a job. What the hell are you talking about?
Elon Musk doesn't employ 180,000 people in Texas.
Elon Musk doesn't give a fuck about you, dog.
Sure, he
Why are you
employs
talking about
180,000
him?
people. Does he not?
Elon Musk would melt you into iron before he cared about you. Why are you defending him?
You would steal my money. Elon Musk wouldn't.
Okay, do you?
I wouldn't steal your money.
Hold on, guys. Hold on,
Go to the
everybody.
gay bar.
Hold on, everybody. Greg, let me ask you, how much are you getting paid to go around and troll on panels on TikTok?
Nothing. It's fun. I do it for free. I enjoy it.
He does it for
I
fun.
can-
I'm going to
tell.
deport all you guys back to Pakistan.
Yo, he eats boots for fun. Check this out.
He said Pakistan.
Guys, it depends.
You know
I
where
get it.
exactly
I don't
where that
like-
is, don't you, Greg?
But that should tell you
I
how
think it's
much
next
he
to Pulse
values
nightclub.
how much he values his time.
That's
He
his
doesn't
Grindr
realize
handle.
People
That's
get
his
paid for
Grindr.
that
Pulse
shit.
nightclub. All right,
Oh
why
my
don't you
God.
guys ever complain about Bloomberg or the liberal billionaires?
I do.
What do you mean? We do.
Yeah, all of them are a problem.
He ran for president and he didn't win, did he?
I
No,
don't.
but he did pretty well. He got like 15% of your votes.
They all give us free. Those people give us free money. We don't complain about them because they give us free shit.
Yeah, they bus us
J.B.
around to all
Pritzker,
the
too, he's a billionaire.
protests.
You guys love.
They bus us around to all the protests, Greg.
Oh,
Why
I
would
bet
we
you get
oppose them?
$15 an hour from a billionaire to do that and harass ICE
Matter of
agents.
fact, my Soros deposit should be coming any time now. Should
Yeah,
be
I
today.
hope,
There's an hour. I got a bonus from my Antifa.
They
Yeah.
certainly do pay protesters, though. And you guys get paid to vote, too. You get bussed around in a little short bus.
Yeah,
That's why I have $14
you're right.
in my account right now is from voting.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations. You voted everyone
Kind of
else
like
for.
how Elon Musk actually was saying that he would pay you to vote. Remember that?
Why would you want to? Why would
Remember
you
that,
want to
Greg?
take money?
Oh, you don't remember
Here's your
that?
question. Why would you want to take money from billionaires to fund Somali learning centers and daycares and worthless wars that the
I think it's fun.
government's wasted on? Well, that's fine, Ferry. You can be
Donald
a
Trump's
moron.
wars? What about Donald Trump's wars that he's been getting us into? What about them?
Oh, exactly. They're terrible.
Or what about putting $10 million in his own
What
bank
about
account
$1 trillion
from
for
taxpayer dollars?
Ukraine, which was a Jewish scam
What
for a war that was unwinnable? They should have known that. They should have known that conflict in Ukraine was unwinnable.
Who? Russia?
No, the UN, NATO. They put $1 trillion in an unwinnable situation. They'll never get that back.
Okay.
That's inflated the dollar. Yeah, Trump's been disappointed.
Who do you
That's just
think
'cause
it
the Zionists
benefited?
control our
Inflated the
government.
dollar.
$1 trillion spent overnight for a worthless war. Yeah, that's how you
I'd
inflate.
say
the
setting
dollar.
back the Russian military 20 years is worth it.
No, it didn't. Russia completely dominated that conflict. Russia's military budget was $68 billion in 2020.
Dude, what are you talking about? They've advanced 50 kilometers in the last 2 years. It's the slowest advance in modern warfare history, dude. You don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, they're being nice. You're a gay boy, and
They're
you want to
being
win war
nice.
for gay rights.
Dude,
Is
yeah,
this
but
guy wearing
okay.
a scuba diver?
All
They
right.
literally spent
Casualty rate
$68
with
billion.
Russia.
All right. It was fun for a moment, but then it became annoying. So I went
Glad
ahead
the
and-
adults are back.
Slava Ukrainian.
Greg, go assault more people of color because we know you're going
I
to.
do think it's
Before I go-
important to note that, prolonging the Ukraine-Russia conflict benefited the very billionaires he was defending. Like the people who benefit from shipping off our old weaponry to Ukraine. And I'm not saying Russia's justified in what they did. That's not my point. My point is, like, the reason the war is prolonged instead of resolved through NATO is because people like Lockheed Martin and shit make money off of it.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy that there's a disconnect there for him.
They tied the hands of him also, saying you can't attack inside Russia, even though that's part of warfare. Like, they invaded me, I'm going to hit them with whatever I can, wherever I want to. But the
also
U.S. was
during
like,
the
no,
first stages-
you can't do
Yeah.
that.
Well, also during like the first stages of the conflict, Ukraine had the most amount of like buying power and cards at the table. And I think it was Boris Johnson or whatever who told him like, no, you have to keep fighting. Do not sit at the table with him and like end the conflict. Which if you're like on the side of humanity, you do want the conflict to end. You shouldn't sacrifice Ukrainians so that like Russia can be defeated. That's not how you should do things. And like the reason you don't want it to end is so that more arms can be sold.
Yeah, I mean, that's a wrong tact. But for me, it's an issue of morality. Like, if they're invaded, a sovereign nation, like, they have a right to defend themselves. And
I think
that's what
Ukraine
they
has
do.
the right to pursue a retaking of all territory that had been taken from them illegally by Russia. I think short of that, I certainly understand nobody wants the war to go on any longer than is necessary. But at the same time, I think Ukraine has a right to take back territory that had been seized from them. I'll try and make this as quick as I can. I did finally get an answer for Chip earlier when we were talking about the question of a general strike, how big it would have to be or how long it'd have to be. I did go ahead and check with Terminator. So per that, everybody, we got to take this with a big grain of salt. Also, there's some caveats here where there's just so many variables at play with this. I mean, even the best AIs or even human researchers probably going to have a hard time coming up with a good answer for that. So that being said, keep that in mind, but it is still kind of an interesting answer. So I had to kind of set the goalposts for it. Basically, is how many workers would have to disengage from the economy and for how long in order to result in a 1% annual drop of GDP for the U.S. economy. And considering those factors, what it came out with is it would actually need to be a 2 to 4 week period of rolling strikes where approximately 31 million workers would have to disengage from the economy, both by not showing up to work and also by constraining their spending to only essential items. And even those, trying to make those go through local outlets as much as possible. So it'd have to be 31 million workers per week for 2 to 4 weeks.
Scissor, who's that going to hurt?
Yeah, and this was to do what exactly again?
Yeah, who's that going to hurt?
1% drop in GDP. That's crazy that it would take that many people. That's what, 10%?
But I forget what the purpose of, like, how did you prompt the question? Like, what, in order to do what?
In order to drop the GDP by 1%.
Got it, okay.
Yeah.
And then,
to what end? People need, bread and butter on their tables to feed their kids, to house their kids. You think that's going to really affect the upper class people? I mean, it's not going to make a difference.
I think. I think.
To only buy essentials.
The principal losers in a GDP drop of that level they would be actually the principal losers of that.
Yeah, that's actually a massive amount of money, and I think that's. I'm assuming the prompt was indicated to like overkill just to make sure. I think it would, pretty much, in order to just get like a leverage to negotiation to where we get just some of these corporations to start listening to us and backing off on basically buying out the government. And again, I think there's other ways to do this, but if we were to go this route, I think it's happening anyways. I think that's what's happening anyways. These corporations are realizing like we don't have money for Snickers and fucking Lay's anymore. And if they want us to buy this shit, they're either gonna have to win back us as customers, change their product, lower the price, or do something revolutionarily different.
Well, but you can put your next DoorDash order on credit, y'all. Just rack it up. I mean, that's literally what this country is operating off of right now, is just fucking debt. And
the thing is, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I would say I think they're going to drag their feet on that as much as possible, because the only real solution to Americans actually starting to spend again is that wages have to increase, which is anathema to them.
Yes.
Well, and that's
what
why
if we all just maxed out all of our credit cards. I mean, like, just took out every loan we possibly could, and then none of us paid it back. I mean, like, genuinely, like, I mean, that's I've never thought about that. But like, what would happen if we just, I don't know, drained the economy of all of its products and never paid back the credit?
Trump would take over Epstein Island, and then he would take all of them and just drop them off there and be like, "This is your punishment. Now there's debtors."
But
prison.
data does make a good point, or support did as well too. Is that, if everybody is on board with the idea of a general strike, it does come with the idea that it's going to create a lot of harm for the people that we needed to create harm for, but also it's going to create a lot of harm for us. So we have to be basically ready and willing to bear a certain amount of sacrifice for that.
I'd like to also point out that, like, the hardships you will face in a general strike is the same hardship you will face in 10 years. There are already people who are going hungry in America. One day it will be you. They will make it worse until it's you.
I think that's the way that this general strike is more than likely going to roll out. Is people aren't going to do this as a sacrificial. It's just going to happen. People are going to be like, I don't have money for Amazon this month. They're not going to miss it. They're going to be like, I can't afford it. They're going to be like, I would rather be warm than have this Amazon shit. And then Amazon's going to have to fucking change.
Before I go, I'll leave you the words of Trent Reznor, which is, will you bite the hand that feeds you?
Well, the hand that feeds a lot of people, unfortunately, is the credit card. Because a lot of people I don't know. It's this fucking mentality of like the suburb HOA shit. My neighbor's got this car. I've got to get it too. Overextend yourself. Live off of fucking credit cards. And then to what end? Like, people put themselves in bad situations in order to have the thing the next guy has. It's been that way for a long time, and that's going to have to stop. It just has to.
Yep, absolutely. Anyway, thanks for having me up. It's a great panel. I got to run, but I hope you all take it easy.
Yeah, thanks, Scissor.
Thanks,
I'm about to shut it down anyway.
Yeah.
I normally go till 1, but people aren't tapping, and the gifting is not there, so I'll just go ahead and shut it down and maybe try again tomorrow. I'm not going to be able to do this show any longer, really, guys. I've said it before. I'll have to figure something else out, contractor wise. So if you want to support the show, you know how to do it. And with that, y'all have a great one. Peace.
Y'all too. Have a good one.